Hey guys, this is a quick video to explain to you about the different types of reading that we're going to be doing in this class. Now, as I'm sure you know, not all writing is created equal. All writing is writing. Somebody had to sit down and write it, is what I mean. But there are many different types and styles of writing. And there's no way we could ever cover all the different types of writing in one class, but there are 4 specific types of writing that we're going to keep coming back to in my class. And I wish that I could have structured it so that we would do one style of writing at a time, but life is never that easy. And we're going to need to be jumping around a lot. We might read fiction one day and follow it up with an informational article the next day, and then that same class period talk about poetry. So before we proceed any further with my class, I got to show you all the different types of writing that there are. All right, so the first type of writing that we'll be working a lot with in our class is called informational writing. This is a news article. It's actually the Chadwick Boseman article that I talked about in my last 2 videos. It is called informational writing because you're mostly reading this to get information. Now, you've probably gone over this in other English classes, but most informational writing has a central idea. So you're going to be reading it, and as you annotate, like I showed you, you're going to point out different parts of the story that have information that you're looking for. And as you work your way down, all of those little parts are going to add up to what we call a central idea. Now, the central idea for this article is that Chadwick Boseman was a black icon. He was a great actor who will be very much missed. There's a bunch of different information, and it all kind of adds up to one big central idea. So that is an informational article. Now, up next is what is called, well, what I'm going to call nonfiction. Now, nonfiction means not false, not fake, not something somebody came up with, but a real thing that actually happened. And I'm cheating a little bit because there are many different types of writing that could count as nonfiction. But for the purposes of our class, we're going to lump them all together, and we're just going to call it nonfiction. Nonfiction could be anything from a speech to an essay to a transcript of a conversation. There's a lot that counts as nonfiction. The example that I've taped up here is Greta Thunberg's speech, How Dare You? She delivered it in 2017. It's a really great speech about global warming. If you've had my class before, you've probably read the speech with me. If not, I'd highly recommend it. But nonfiction is anything that is real, that actually happened. It might be a historical document. It might be a speech that has become a part of history. It might be an essay someone wrote. Could be a transcript of a conversation, as I said earlier. All of these things and more count as nonfiction. And now, switching camera angles here, now the camera is tilted the other way, we will also be reading a lot of poetry in our class. This is a really pretty poem called Death of an Empath, and you're going to notice it's not very long. It's just under 1 page, and there's not a whole lot of text going on here. And the reason for that is poetry has layers and layers of meaning to it. And so when we read a poem, what we're looking for, what we're doing, is uncovering layers of meaning. Poetry is all about doing as much as possible with as little text as possible. Not always, but generally for the most part. Poetry is about doing more with less. And now for the last piece of writing that we're going to be working with in this class, we've got good old fiction. Oh yes. Fiction is usually a narrative. A narrative means that there is a narrator telling you a story. So fiction almost always has a story to it. And if you've watched my creative writing videos, you will know that a story follows a plot arc, right? We've got the exposition, the conflict, the climax, and the resolution. That's fiction. For our example here, I've taped up the first 3 pages of The Great Gatsby. Obviously, I couldn't tape up the entire book because, well, I'd have to print the entire book. But you get what I'm saying here. Fiction tends to be longer, it tends to be a story, it follows a set pattern. Now the pattern can change, but Generally, you can expect something that looks like this. In my class this year, we've already kind of experimented with building plot, and so that is fiction. And so those are the four main types of writing that we're going to be working with in this class: informational, nonfiction, poetry, and fiction. There are, of course, many more different styles of writing, but these are the general categories that I'm going to clump everything into. I hope this video helps you as we move forward with our year. I hope that when you read things, you'll have an easier time knowing what you're looking at before you start reading, because if you remember from my annotation video, step one is to know what it is that you're reading. Well, this goes a long way. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you refer back to it anytime you need, and I hope that you become a better reader this year, because better readers make better writers, and this class is all about writing. Bye, guys.